Before we get into this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast, I want to let you know that our course, the How to Film Weddings course, is available for enrollment. We know that this year has been really, really hard on a lot of you. We did a survey a few weeks ago, and one of the things that we got back was bookings are down. We also know that the How to Film Weddings course will help you in your business, growing your business, helping you book more couples, helping you edit better, learning everything that you can about wedding videography. And so we are doing something that we have never done before, and that is offering the course at the best possible price we have ever offered it. If you would like more information and you would like to pick up this 10-step system that can really help you grow your wedding videography business, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/the course. That's howtofilmweddings.com/the course, where you can pick this up for the best price we have ever offered it. Now, let's jump into the podcast.
Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is John Bunn, and I'm here with a brand new episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. Guys, I just did something different. You might have seen it in our Facebook group, but I did a live free Zoom call with about 25 wedding filmmakers. They asked me questions, I answered. It's a little bit longer form episode, but I just wanted to put it out as an episode because I think there were a lot of good questions in there, and it's a little bit easier for me from time to time, instead of trying to put together a bunch of notes and figure out exactly what I'm going to say to you, just to kind of let you ask the questions. So that's what we did today. We did a live Q&A, just answering questions, kind of a Zoom mentor session, and there were a lot of good things. So I'm excited for you to listen to this. Let me know if you like this and if you want to do this sometime in the future. So before we get going, I do want to remind you of our good friends over at MusicBed. If you don't know, howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed, the number one place to license music for your wedding films. Seriously, I've been using them since the beginning. The music is the best, their tools are the best, the search features are the best, and you want high quality music for your films. They have a free trial going on right now. If you head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed, you can check that out, download a few free songs, see what you think about it. And yeah, it's just their gift to you for trying it out. See why so many amazing wedding filmmakers use MusicBed. That's howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. All right, so let's now get into this week's live mentor call with me and a bunch of you. Well, thanks guys for joining. I'll keep letting people in. I have literally no agenda. I was on Monday morning inspired because I keep getting messages from people and they're like, could you help me with this? And it's just like, yeah, I would love to help you with that. So I just thought I'll put out some feelers and give people actually a couple days to know this is happening, put it on their calendar and bring some questions. I'm recording this. I may end up turning it into a podcast. So you're agreeing by being on here that you might end up being on our podcast. But yeah, I just wanted to, if you have questions, want to chat about a scenario you're going through, that kind of thing, I'd be glad to answer those questions. If you want to raise your hand and ask the question, or if you want to just put it in the chat if you're worried about your voice or something. I know that last night Pal sent me a DM through our circle group for our mastermind this year, and it was a good question. And I was like, hey, are you able to come and ask that so we can discuss it? Because I was like just about to watch the debate and just about to be bored into falling asleep watching it. So let's start out, if you're cool with it, Pal, who you are, where you're at, and maybe the question that you had for me last night.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm just trying to keep you busy while you're trying to relax on the couch, you know me.
Yeah.
So I'm Paula, Pau for short, if you're comfy with that. My husband Jesse and I work out of Boston. Yeah, doing this for 7 years, like John said. We're part of the mastermind group this year, and I sent him a message last night because we got an inquiry from a local influencer here in the Boston area. Inquiry was super nice, super great. Not a situation where she's asking for any sort of discount whatsoever. But she had, and I'm gonna read it. She had a question in her inquiry that said, we hope, with permission of our selected filmmaker, to share the video with credit on the page as well. And we're open to purchasing additional rights in addition to your rate. So, from my understanding, her question was, the influencer has this big platform. I believe she has about 8 million on TikTok, 3 million or so on Instagram. She's pretty well known in the area. And what she's asking is if we're going to charge her additional fees to post her films. Um, now, I I hesitate because I feel like it's a little icky to be like, I'm going to capitalize on this. I feel like if she's hiring us to film her wedding, she should be able to film her wedding. My question kind of comes up in like if she wants additional content to promote whatever brands she might be working with her wedding, is there a fee that we should think about charging? What's a smart business move here? Because it's one thing to share her film and another thing to share content um, and if she's going to repurpose that for engagement. So, yeah, I didn't know what like if there's a standard out there or if John or anybody else has any opinion on that. Kind of open to just hearing what people think.
Yeah, feel free to throw an answer or your thoughts in the chat. I'll have a couple follow-up thoughts. A lot of the influencers I've worked with either or that I'm friends with, they a lot of times will use, they will take the footage just of the wedding and they will repurpose it or have it re-edited to then make 10 or 20 grand off of a single post talking about the dress or talk. So, did you gather that that might be some of what she's wanting to take the footage, use the B-roll, and make her own stuff?
I didn't. This is kind of all I have to go on right now. From just if I'm taking the inquiry at face value, it didn't sound like that's what the intention was. It sounds like the intention might be just to post the video. But I kind of wanted to be prepared if I end up having a conversation with her, if that is the intention to like break it up or to use like the raw footage for extra content, how to handle that there.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to depends on what it means to you to do this person's wedding. Obviously, they're not asking for a discount. They're asking because I know that the going rate, a couple of my friends that have 2 to 4 million followers, the going rate for like a promoted video for them is anywhere from 15 to 30,000 for per video. So they might be thinking, oh, we'll pay you your 15 grand or whatever to do the wedding, and then we'll be able to make 100 grand off of those. Is that cool? So it just depends on the licensing that you want to do. I mean, there's different contracts that you can have, like a licensing agreement where it's like, hey, you can license any of the footage each year, like, or for the next 60 days or whatever, or do you want full release of all footage so that you can use it for marketing purposes? And then, I mean, I don't think they would be like, we'll give you 100 grand for that or anything, but they might, like, my next step if I were in your shoes would be just obviously gathering a little more data from them. Like, hey,
Yeah.
what's the plan? What do you think, like, what are you going to end up using this for? If it's going to be for commercial projects where you're going to benefit, we have a different rate. Or if you're just wanting to be able to use it so that you can make posts, how do you see yourself using that? Typically, if we want like a full release for commercial type projects, it's going to be a different rate. And then you might be like, if you're just going to post it on yours, if you'll just invite me as a collaborator when you post, if I like, that's enough for me. Or, depending on if that influencer is kind of going to have a lot more of the same kind of followers that want to work with your brand.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I was taking it is, we've worked with influencers in the past that have never asked this question because all they've done is post their video and tagged us. They've never been interested in the content of it all. And, personally for me, if she wants to post her wedding teaser and her wedding film and just make us a collaborator, that is enough for me. I also think because of her demographic, it could also just mean us getting in front of more potential brides in this specific area. Um, yeah, so I guess what you're saying is like it would be pretty standard if she wanted to break up that film or take the raw footage and make dress specific reels for, if she worked with a designer or if she worked with a ring designer, it's pretty standard to do a licensing agreement in that
Yeah.
case.
Yeah. And, similar to like if you have a video that goes viral and some random company calls you and or messages you and says, hey, we want to use that footage or whatever. But I could see like her just wanting the access, doesn't know exactly yet what she's going to do with it, but doesn't want in 6 months to be like, hey, I want to post this clip of my, fiance crying as I walk down the aisle in conjunction with Pantene Pro V. I have no idea, but and then there's your footage that you got your 10 or 15 grand for that she's getting. So I think that I
Yeah.
would do some digging, clarifying and reiterating to her like, hey, if you hire us, pay us our rate. If you want like a full release of footage so you can use it forever, that would be a much more expensive price than just like your raw footage to have,
Mhm.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And do a little bit of digging. And then the other side of it would be if you don't have a creative attorney that you work with, do you have one that you work with?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay. That'd be just worth it. But yeah, digging, asking, you don't want to complicate it too much because you want them to book you. And if there's all this legalese already, but like if you're like, hey, this is our standard rate, we would be somewhere in like 10 to 30% more for like a yearly license fee to use anything you want or whatever. Like you might talk with your attorney just about what they've seen. But if you just want this so you can have the footage is different from you're going to be working with different people and then kind of see where the conversation goes. But again, if she's willing to pay and has a big following and you're like, it would be worth it to me if you did an extra $5,000 plus a minimum of three videos that you're going to invite us as a collaborator for or something because her 3 million followers or whatever, might open up the door. Yeah, monetizing your wedding does sound like a great way to finance your wedding. A lot of
Sure
the
does.
celebrities, that's exactly what they do. And yes, Kayla posted, I've heard of charging a 10 to 25% licensing rate for sponsored posts. Again, it just depends. Like I've had several videos over the last so many years go viral and like, it's not with an influencer, but it's like somebody wanting to license the video that I, put it on Wedding Wire or whatever the thing was, Green Wedding Shoes at the time. And I would charge anywhere just for that from me with them based on their size, anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. And I would get it mainly in a couple $1,000 range. So with somebody that has that big of a following on TikTok and Instagram, it's like they're going to make a lot of money off of that footage. That doesn't mean that you deserve or should take a lot of it, but it is your footage that you're licensing. And if they're like, oh, sorry, we don't want to book you because you're wanting a piece of every time we post it, you don't want to lose the wedding for that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, I'm looking 2 steps ahead and saying, hey, if I can make an extra little bit and if I can get the promotion from it, then I will do that.
So your suggestion would be to first talk to our attorney. If this is a conversation that moves forward, talk to an attorney about language,
Yeah, maybe do
and
maybe a little more digging with her of like, hey, what do you think you're like, this sounds great. This would be awesome. I love getting people footage. I want you to have your footage. Obviously, if you're using it for commercials that other brands are going to be making money or you're going to be making money, that's a different conversation than like if
yeah,
you just want to be able to, and then she'll probably give you more information of like, yeah, we'll probably use this. And then I would basically offer them a full buyout. Hey, you can have the footage, use it for whatever you want, whenever you want for probably the same amount as the actual wedding or more. Or something that's much smaller than that. And then saying, just invite me as a collaborator. I'd rather build the relationship as another route. So,
yeah, cool. All right.
yeah,
I appreciate it.
sure. Good question. Okay. There was a question in the chat for new people that have joined. Hi, I'm literally just answering your questions. Hi, Brandon. Hi. all the people I see in there. It's good to see your faces. Adam said, my question is, how do you get out of your comfort zone and just direct couples getting the shots you want? I've been filming weddings alongside my wife, a photographer, for 2 years now, and I feel like I've been following her, getting the shots that my wife poses them in. And I had to let someone in there, sorry. But I just feel like I lack the confidence to go in and direct. Any tips or advice would be greatly appreciated. So my thought, Adam, is that like I gauge the room a lot. Like I don't just go in and say, I'm going to take control or let me do this stuff. But I also think that baby steps are a really great way into doing this. And so if I'm at a wedding and I'm with a photographer, I'm wanting to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, it might look something like me saying, hey, photographer, I know you're doing this pose. When you get done, do you mind if I do something real quick with them? Like nothing crazy, but like asking them, hey, can you guys actually just slow dance real quick? Or can you just move a little bit? Like movement's important for video. So you guys want to hold hands and walk that way and come back, like some basic directing and working alongside the photographer. I mean, I know you're working with your wife, but I wouldn't go in and be like, I'm going to do my whole thing. I'm going to do it all by myself now. I'm going to direct. A lot of weddings still do maybe 10% of the time of the directing, maybe 20% based on, but I will direct the photographer, which is a little tidbit that I would say. I'm standing next to the photographer and I'm like, hey, this is a great pose. After this, do you mind having them look at each other? And then the photographer's kind of running the show, depending on who it is. And then, hey, photographer, before we get going, if you need a break, you need a creative break, just ask me if I want anything and I'll take over for a couple shots and I'll throw it back to you. So it's like this collaboration between the two of us. It's kind of the same advice I give about like using Kelvin instead of auto white balance for the first time. Like you don't want to just go into a wedding never having done it and shoot the whole wedding in Kelvin. You'd rather maybe just do a little bit of the portrait session with Kelvin or just do like some of the getting ready or a little part of it and then check your work. So that's my main advice on that. Anybody else have feedback on that they'd like to share? Feel free to unmute yourself and say what you would do or drop it in the chat.
I always like to talk to the photographer ahead of time too and kind of ask their preference. Like, do you mind me jumping in or would you rather, me wait for you to be finished a pose and then say what I say? But it's something that Brooke and I always speak with the photographer about ahead of time. And what we've kind of found along the way is the majority of photographers just want you to kind of jump in as they're going, because whether or not they need it, it kind of does give their mind a little bit of a break so that they can start thinking ahead to where they want to pose next.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is the communication and build up before you get into like some of the posing. And depending on the kind of wedding that you're doing, sometimes if you're, when I was in kind of like the lower or middle market photographers, it would be hit or miss if they had worked with a videographer before. So they're like, they don't even know how to interact besides feeling like you're in their way. And so gauging the room, communicating, and then the wedding I just did in New York, the photographer was awesome. And I just said, hey, during the photo session, how do you want to do this? Do you want me to lead some? Do you want to lead some? She was like, feel free to jump in as much as you want. And I was like, great. What I'll do is I'll let you get going. And if there's something I want, I'll probably whisper it to you, but then I'll give you a break creatively. Just feel free to say, John, do you want anything? And that'll be my cue to take over. And so those are the little things I do. I've learned with video that less is more, and saying less is almost more when it comes to posing a couple. Like, hey, you two go over there and get comfortable. Just be comfortable with each other. Like, that's not me saying, you put your arms around her waist, you put your, kiss her on the temple, but I'll let them get comfortable. Then I'll be like, oh, why don't you guys snuggle, like forehead to forehead real quick. Okay, cool. Like, oh, why don't you give her a kiss on the cheek? Or, oh, you guys hold a kiss real fast. Or I'm going to move her. Like, rub your left hand on his lapel or whatever. And I'm slowly and I hear the photographer taking photos like, oh, this is so good. But explaining to the photographer how important movement is for me is my go-to. Like, hey, if they're just posing and looking right at you, that doesn't look as good on video. So between some of your shots, I might say to you to have them look at each other or to add some movement. And that gets the ball rolling. And so since you work with your wife that is a photographer, I would tell her to force you to do some of that. And I think it's worth giving that a try, and you'll get more comfortable the more weddings that you do. For those that have just joined the room, welcome. If you have a question for me, you can drop it in the chat or feel free to hit the raise hand button. I'm scrolling back up to the top of the chat and trying to answer questions. Kevin, I don't know if you're flattering me or not with your question. How is your fitness journey going? Changes at my gym. I don't think I have changes at my gym. My fitness journey is great. I'm down 19 pounds in the year 2024. And I turned 40 at the end of this month, and my goal is to weigh 199 pounds, which my people that don't live in America might not know what that means, but I'm at 201. I was at 219 at the beginning of the year. And so I've done that while gaining muscle. So I've gained more than, I've gained a few pounds of muscle. So my fitness journey is going great. I feel good. I'm sleeping good. Outside of stress of work, everything in life has been great. Let's see. Hi, Lindsay and Cherish. Are they in here? Did I see them join? What other questions do you guys have? Pantene shout out. What do we see here? I'm scrolling back down. Okay. So Saeed says, hey, it's Saeed. What's up, Saeed? I saw you in there a second ago. I truly appreciate the great effort you guys do. Have you guys ever participated in a wedding show, and how was your experience? And if you don't mind sharing how many contracts you secured. I'm excitedly participating in a wedding show here in Montreal, and my mind is all over the place as there's 1 month left to go. Guys, I have not only done wedding shows, I have done them to the max. I have done so many wedding shows, and I had these carpenters build me like this custom wooden box on casters that looked like a living room set. I've done like all kinds. I mean, back in 2007, that was the way you got bookings. And so it taught me a lot about sales. The hardest part about wedding shows, outside of, I think that a lot of us bring way too much stuff. Like we try to have the biggest set. Like you could literally have a coffee table with a TV on it, and it's in a banner. But the hardest part is cold leads have a hard time seeing the value in video. And so my mindset shifted a lot towards how can I turn cold leads into warm leads with this? And what I mean by that is they don't know I exist. They don't even know that there's the problem that they need video. And I'm going to not just be like, do you want to book a wedding video? That's a lot. That's going from 0 to 60. So instead, it was more connecting with people, maybe either with some type of a promotion or giveaway, saying, hey, do you want to win a wedding teaser? Now you know I exist. Now you've given me your email address. Now I can send you a message right after the show. I can connect with you at the show and talk to you about what I do. But I've gone from, it's the whole analogy of the walking up to a girl in the bar. Like, you're not going to walk up to her and say, hey, will you marry me? I mean, if you do and she says yes, that's cool. More power to you. But maybe not. That might not be the person you want to marry. And so anyway, my thought is, what does the scenario look like where you walk up and say, do you mind if I sit here? Do you mind if I strike up this conversation? And so at these bridal shows, wedding shows, there's usually a lot of people with a lot of spin the wheel and a lot of stuff going on, and it's crazy. And yeah, you can book people on the spot, but the people that I've booked on the spot were looking for a crazy deal. They were looking for just somebody to film their wedding. And if you're more volume, your presence at a bridal show would be a lot different than if you're a more boutique. And so what your booth says about you, your people that are at the booth, maybe you're not the best at sales, maybe bring somebody in that is better than you at pulling people in. I used to have headphones where people could literally stand up and watch films with headphones on. And I went all for it. And I made a lot of money doing it early in the day. The other side of bridal shows for me, and the most important part for me, was the networking side. Taking the time to either work with the coordinator of the actual event and saying, can I film some stuff? Can I get you some footage of this? Or walking around and getting to know other vendors before the show in the little break rooms, making connections, being in the room. Hi, I'm John. This is what I do, but more so, what do you do? How can I connect with you? Relationships that I built at bridal shows made me way more than the actual bookings. There's a lot more that you can do with bridal shows, but those are my initial feedbacks, thoughts. Anybody have anything you want to add about what they've done at bridal shows? Feel free to unmute yourselves and chime in. And if not, I'll keep moving.
With bridal shows, when you like when you go do a bridal show and have a booth, how many, like, is it generally by yourself or do you bring multiple people with you? And then when you do offer to get footage and coverage of the bridal show itself, how do you kind of go about abandoning your booth, so to speak?
Yeah, good questions. I haven't done a bridal show in over 10 years, just as a heads up. But what I would do would reach out, like I didn't have any money to start with, so I would reach out and be like, hey, would you trade me a booth if I made you a 2-minute video? And they'd be like, yes, absolutely. And I was like, sweet, I don't have to spend $2,000 on this booth. I would just hire people to be part of it for the day at $20 an hour, stuff like that, and have, depending on the size of the booth, one extra person. Most of the time it was usually a previous bride that I had worked with, just saying, hey, I actually filmed her wedding, let her tell you about the experience. That seemed to work really well. But yeah, bringing people and having them as part of your booth, and the energy of having just more than one awkward person being like, hi, do you want video? It was helpful. I just wanted to be a breath of fresh air for people. So a lot of times I would bring or have a cake maker make me little cupcakes or little cake pops or little, it's like, hey, come there's a couch right here, sit down, take a time. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Like, do you need video? Like, just, and here's this promotion I'm doing. I'm giving away a free teaser to somebody, but having two or so girls that were in my booth that were previous couples that loved my brand, and said, oh yeah, John's the one, let me introduce you to John. Like, it worked for me. And then that allowed me to leave the booth and like go get footage, make a couple of swoops with the gimbal, get some tighter shots of people interacting, and then I would make a little same day edit thing for them. Did I answer all your questions, Lane? Okay, cool. Kevin, do you see yourself starting to offer photography in addition eventually as an evolution of your business? So I've been posting this in my stories, and Kevin's my biggest fan in my stories, and I appreciate that, Kevin. Lots of interaction, and I like it. The algorithms like it, I'm sure too. I just enjoy photography, and I turned 40 this month, and I've been doing lots of deep internal thinking of like things that are enjoyable and what makes me uncomfortable, and I want to continue to just keep doing things that make me uncomfortable, as in like get out of my comfort zone, not like creepy uncomfortable. Like, I want to make you uncomfortable. None of that. But my wife keeps, like, in 2018 and 19, I always had a camera on me and was just taking photos, and there are favorite photos of our kids and like I did a lot of just sessions with previous couples, and I just really enjoyed it. And I'm not looking to start a wedding photo business, but I'm also like not against shooting a couple weddings just to see what it would be like. So I don't know. I just felt like I just want to get out of my comfort zone. I put some stuff on my stories. 2 of my previous couples reached out, and I have 2 sessions in October, and they're going to pay me to do it. And it's like, oh, cool. I'll make an extra like $800 and get some cool photos, and people will remember that I exist, that I filmed their weddings, and that's kind of where I'm at with that right now. So maybe I would love it if part of my bookings were photo. I think that photo is way easier than video. So I don't know how other people feel about that, but all right. Steve, what's up, man? Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you, John. Yeah, I actually, speaking of photography, because my brother and I, we both have our wives, and we have like a duo photo and video team. And I actually just joined the Level Up Co. Mastermind that they have. And one of the things that they brought up was that if you're trying to get into the luxury, they said that normally in the higher luxury space, they don't book photo video teams. Um, it's very rare. They said that it's a thing, and there's wedding planners out there that will just not book teams. They're very niched, and they really stick to finding someone that's going to give them quality. So when they see like photo video teams, that they think it's kind of like a bundle. It's like you're saving money, and usually people in like the luxury that can afford usually will not want to book those type of photographers and videographers. So I don't know. I heard that from them, and I'm starting to think maybe she's right. Maybe I do have to separate, the both of them, and seeing if maybe I with my wife go do photo and my brother and his wife do video, and I guess in the long run we'll help each other. But I don't know
Yeah,
if you agree, or if you've seen that in the more higher end market.
I 100% agree in the higher market. I have determined for me the direction that I'm going, what I want to do, although I appreciate the higher luxury in market, it's not a market that I want to, like, I like the premium market that I'm in. I like the interaction that I'm having with the couples that I'm having. That's my happy place for now. And if this does turn into something where I'm actually taking photos, I would probably move more towards splitting it up. But I see people like Eric Floberg. He's got video and photo, and he's not trying to do ultra luxury type weddings. And so it just depends on where you're heading with your brand. And my goal is not to be competing with people like Cherish and Lindsay Conklin for weddings, or being in the luxury space at all. Like I currently, my highest booking this year was 32,000. My highest booking next year is 18,000. This year was kind of crazy it was like 2 weddings in one. And so I'm more in like that, for me, 15,000 range. I booked one for 5,000 for next year because I just wanted it. It seemed like fun. And that's more where I'm at in my brand and business, is like, I just want to do certain things because I want to do them because I enjoy them. And with How to Film Weddings and other coaching that I'm doing and just different steps I'm taking, like, I'm cool with, like, I'm really happy with where I'm at, and I don't really want to be but if my goal, like you said, Steve, was just like, hey, I want to move into luxury, ultra luxury, premium, like really, really, I would definitely not be a combined video photo brand. I would separate it out, have your wife be one, have you be one, whatever it is. So, okay. Anybody else? Did I miss any questions in there? Anybody have a question at all? Just regarding your business, where you're at. I know some of you put in the chat, but feel free to raise your hand. Would be glad to answer any questions. Saeed, what's up, man?
Hey John, thank you so much. I really appreciate the effort you guys do. You guys are really amazing. I've been listening to your podcast for a while. You guys are nailing it, to be honest. So, one of the questions that I had earlier, and I think I've DM'd you that question, but it's still unclear for me, which is the masterclass. The difference between the masterclass and the course you guys are having right now. May you just let me know what is the difference between those two?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. And I'll send you a check for getting me to ask and talk about this. I said I wasn't going to sell anything. So the handful of you guys have been in our mastermind group that are here. We have a course and we have a mastermind group as well. And I'd be glad to let anybody that's been part of mastermind that wants to say nice things, you can say mean things too. But my perspective on it is, like, our course would be for people that want just a handbook that they can watch and get details, how to do all these things, the systems that we've made. It's about 12 hours of content. We had it at 30 hours. We re-recorded it and got it down to 10 steps, made it a little bit simpler. So it's just like the full blueprint after 25 combined years of us. Just, here's what we've done, here's how you can do it, and just you watch at your own pace. It includes all of our like templates and PDFs and things like that. So it's more of just a digital course. There's a small community aspect to it, but there's really a Facebook group. You can ask questions and things like that. The mastermind group, my thoughts are on the record, Brandon says. The mastermind group is more of a cohort. And we do have a curriculum, and it's some of it's surface level, some of it's deeper. We're walking through basically from beginning to end. And this year we revamped the curriculum after feedback, and just kind of it's not how to start a business, like that's in the course. It's okay, we have a business, we want to grow, we've been doing this for a little bit, we're plateaued, we need community, we want to do this together. And the curriculum itself, you can actually find it at howtofilmweddings.com/mastermind, walks through literally section by section, where we started by defining, like in the first part of the year, we define who we want to serve, why we want to serve them, and walk all the way through how to build a website for that client, how to know who your client is, how to attract them, how to sell to them, how to, and walk all the way through. Now we're in the middle of how to shoot a wedding based on the kind of clientele you want to work with. And we bring in guest speakers to teach on things. So like next week, Hello Tomorrow is talking about story, and it's a lot more organized this year than it's ever been before. And just the idea that we're just getting into the editing. So before we talk about editing, we want the best in the industry that we know in storytelling to come in and say, hey, here's what you should be thinking about with storytelling. And then it's a more interactive like this, where you can ask us questions, Q&A. So it's much more expensive. It takes more of our time. And then at the end of the year, there's a retreat that we all go together. I can go into more detail if you want, but that's one's a little more done for you, and one of them is done with you. Mark, did you want to ask a question, or did you want to speak on? Just feel free to speak.
Okay. I'm currently in Mastermind. I think it's amazing. I'm so glad I took it. I'm so glad I'm in it right now. I've learned so much, and I can't wait to see what's left in the can. So yeah, really enjoy the time of not only doing a big group on a weekly basis, but also breaking out into smaller groups and getting to know other people as we go through the course together. So it's been amazing. It's been wonderful. And I'm just so glad I jumped into it. So there's your endorsement right there. I would definitely do the Mastermind over the other course. I've not done the other course, but Mastermind, to me, I don't know what else you would want. It's perfect. It's great. I have a question.
Yeah. Thanks.
So as I continue to get business, some of the struggles I'm encountering is letting go of control, expansion, and and managing like lead times and backlog. Can you talk a little bit about how maybe when you were maybe in my shoes or at my point in my business, how you some things that you did to kind of help you handle that and let go of control and expand? Thank you.
Good question. And your check is in the mail. Yeah. So a lot of times I think that we are afraid as solopreneurs or people that have maybe their spouse helping with them to let go of control. And I think a lot of times people think that's in outsourcing their edits, and their edits are what is their bread and butter. And if that's the case, don't outsource that. But you have to look at even just like a Hollywood production, like to produce a film, there is a cinematographer, there's a DP, there's a grip, there's lighting, there's colorists, there's audio techs, there's Foley, there's dialogue editors, there's all kinds of different things. And that's just to produce the film. And then you have script writers, and you have to tell this, sell the story to a production house and have to get it funded. And then once it's made, you have to then market it and get people to come watch it. And so there's all these different things, and there's no way one person can do that. And wedding filmmaking is a very small version of that. And the more that you do try to control, the less that you can get really good in one area. And it's a balancing game of like what you should be doing versus what, I think a lot of people think that, I can't outsource my edits, but in reality they could. But then I do think there are a lot of people that their edits are the things they shouldn't outsource. And then just looking at your year, and Mark, I know your year, you might have too many bookings and now you're in backlog, and now what do I do? And you might have to just come to reality and say, hey, for this year, these are my top 20% type weddings that I want to put out into the world. These are the ones I'm going to pour my effort in. And the other 80% I am going to outsource, or they're not going to show up on my portfolio, but I'm going to give them a great product. I'm not going to give them crap, but I have to let go somewhere. I can't do all things all the time, because if you do all those things all the time, you're going to burn out. You're not going to have time for your family. You're not going to have time for fun or enjoyment. And what's the purpose if you can't do any of that? And so, or you might say, I'm going to balance this by only shooting 10 weddings, 12 weddings. I might pick up extra work so that I only have to do this many weddings. But I think a lot of us just kind of get going. We get in the boat, we start paddling, and we're heading towards somewhere. We don't know where, and we just try to do everything. And then there's like a little hole in the boat, and we're like, crap, I got to edit. I'm going to poke that. And there's another hole. And you're just like all you're doing now is spinning in circles. You lost a paddle. You're just rowing faster, and you're just going in circles. And so being realistic, having people that you can trust building relationships with outsourcing, even if it's outsourcing your taxes, outsourcing the beginning of your edits, the marketing, like all that kind of stuff. You have to determine, like for me, I know that the sales side of what I do and the relationship building side and the shooting of the wedding are the things I want to really dig into. So I outsource my edits, and I edit some. I'm editing a wedding that I shot in Canada because it's just fun, and I want to do it. And I'm in the middle of doing that right now because I want to. But since 2019, I've only edited one film, but I've been heavily investing my time into being the creative director and letting the editor push the buttons and me see the films and say, I have these 100 changes. These are the things I need to change. And I don't let a film go out without, producing on it, directing on it, making sure that it's what I want. And so anyway, to me, it's just like being realistic with where you're at and saying, I'm, you're in mastermind. So you're hearing all these people saying, do this. And that's the hardest part about mastermind is you get all this information and you think, okay, I got to implement it all today. And the truth of the matter is you came into mastermind, you've already got 20 or 30 weddings booked. You booked them before you realized you should have raised your prices. You booked them before you knew who your ideal clients were or your people you really wanted to serve. And so there sometimes is just like hey, I'm just going to bite the bullet and outsource this part of my life, where I'm going to let go of control of this one thing and see how that feels. And I was nervous too to let go of control of things. But you think about people, and the ones that are the most successful are willing to lose control and let go of control and train people. And you'll spend time on all kinds of things and stuff. But like to me, I don't enjoy having 30 weddings to edit and having that pressure all the time. And I would rather figure out a way to make an extra $800 to $1,000 per wedding so that I can pay somebody to do that. But it didn't just happen. It took me like 2 years of kind of doing that and trusting and building that before I could get to like, oh, you're doing just as good as I would do or better. So
thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah. So a lot of that stuff you're talking about, it's slowly coming up to get, like looking at next year and how to increase prices so there's not so many. This is only my second year in, so I'm learning that stuff as I go. But it's really good to hear all that. And thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
I'm going to interrupt this mentor call really, really quick to again remind you of our course, the How to Film Weddings course. It is our 10-step system that can help you grow your wedding videography business. And again, we are offering it for the best price we have ever offered it. So if you want to head over to howtofilmweddings.com/the course, you can learn more, see that price, and pick it up today. All right, let's get back to the mentor call.
Anybody else have more? Let's see. Saeed has a question over there. What are the ways that help you to expect a number of sales for next year? For example, this is my first year in the business, so I'm trying to figure out a way to expect revenue. I know there are many factors like social media exposure and other vendors in the industry, but what makes it more clear for you? I don't know. That's the hardest part about our job, I think so, is just the inconsistency. What I'm looking at more so than just social media, I think would be my networking, like that side of things. Who did I meet? Who have I worked with? How have I served them? The more that I lean into my networking and my brand itself, the more people end up booking me. So for me, I think I look internally, so ways that help me to expect a number of sales would be like, how many good relationships do I have with planners, and how a lot of times at this time of year, typically in a non-weird COVID bubble type situation, I would hope to be about 50 to 70% full for the next year. And things have changed a little bit. I've started booking people a lot closer to their weddings. And so for me, if I want 20 weddings and I've got like 7 or 8, I'm thinking I'll probably get to like 14 or 15. And then based on like your social media and things like that, your social media exposure, that's always great, but I have not seen a major correlation between like a video that went viral and me getting lots more bookings. It's way more being at weddings, like I would rather take a wedding. So for example, I told this story on the podcast, but I booked a wedding for November that like my starting rate, and the planner knows it, was 15,000. I sent her a message and say, hey, do you have anything in the fall? I need money. I need some money for this business. I have no bookings in the fall. If you have anybody, and this is a planner that does premium weddings, I've done several weddings with her for $20K or more. And she said, I've got this couple. They're beautiful. The wedding venue's awesome. They've got like a $7,000 to $8,000 budget. And I was like, I can build something custom. I'll solo shoot it. I'll do something and I booked them for $7,500. Since then, they've bumped it to $10,000 with add-ons, which is great, which is still lower. But this year was weird for me, and I knew I needed to book it. But last week on Friday, I got a message from the same planner that I know that if I wouldn't have reached out, I wouldn't have got this message. And I'm just about to sign the deal on an $18,000 package for next year with the same planner, for making, like, keeping that fire going. And I'm 18 years into business, and I think people highly undervalue just staying in front of people in your stories or whatever it is that you do. Like I see Lindsay in here, it's like they're not going to just be showing up on their stories with their faces like I showed up yesterday with my story on my face talking about photos. That's on purpose. I want people to just see, oh yeah, John's I like John. I forgot that he existed. I forgot that, and I say this from time to time. It's like, I will post a photo on my private Facebook or my private Instagram account of my kids. And then like 30 minutes later, I'll get a text from like one of my brothers or my mom and be like, hey, how's it going? It's like, my family needs reminded that I exist. It's sad, but in the world that we live in, they really don't need that. I went to coffee with my brother this morning and I didn't post anything. But the point being is that I think we live in this world where we think, oh, we've got good work, I'm going to book stuff. And I think there's the equal sides of it. And you can determine which lane you want to go further into. Do I want to have the most ridiculous work? Do I want to have the best networking? Do I want a mixture of both of those things? Because I know that if you're working on your network, your actual work can be developing alongside that. And there's just something that about the momentum of being at weddings, getting those weddings, being at a wedding with a photographer. I make a new friend and a new referral partner every wedding that I have a new photographer friend. Every time I'm with a planner, every time I'm with a new florist, and I'm not going to big networking events and traveling. My networking is my local events and then the weddings I'm booking, and still making relationships and using social media too to make even more relationships. I'm networking by using How to Film Weddings. I'm bringing on planners that I like, trying to just talk to them. Like, I'm doing anything I can to just stay in front of people in a way that's natural, and that's usually my gauge for how the year's going to be. And the reason that my year was low is that I really decided last year I only shot 2 weddings for John Bunn Films. I needed just a break. So it was kind of like a sabbatical year. I had a wedding in April and a wedding in June, and I was like, I'm done. I'm taking a break. And then this year I think I have 7. And so next year my goal is 10. And if a couple of those are photo, that's great. But that's my gauge. I'm sure there's a million other gauges. I mean, if the CFO of my company was on, I would, say, hey, like, these are the amount of website hits that I'm getting, and this is the blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to wedding filmmaking specifically, networking is my main gauge. The people and not just networking with vendors. Like, have I been in touch recently with some of my recent couples? Have I, just me doing photos, asking friends if they want photos. I've booked 2 of my previous couples to take photos in the next month. I'm not trying to do anything but whatever, but one of the people was like, oh, also my friend is engaged. Would you want to take a couple pictures of them? It's like, sure. Like, I'm always looking for how I can keep pushing that ball forward. So, do we have more questions? There's one. Kevin, what are you typically including in your collections these days? Everything's changed, man. No, typically my destination packages start at $15,000, and they include myself and Blake, and they will include the 2 days basically. If they want to do a session before, like a welcome party or a rehearsal dinner, They get us for 2 days. I make one film based off of the 2 days. Usually it's like, hey, we're doing a welcome party, then a rehearsal dinner, then the wedding day. That's like $15K. And then I will add another $3K if they're doing an additional day, like, hey, we're going out on a boat on that day. And it's like, cool. So it's usually just more days. And then what I deliver is typically an 8 or 10 or 12-minute film based on how many days and the footage I get. They get all their ceremony, their toasts, their like speeches, so they can just push play and watch those. And then they get a 1-minute teaser trailer. Blake shoots drone footage. I give them all their footage on a hard drive. Like for those packages, I'm just like, this is what it is. You get everything that I would offer. And then for this year, some of the custom things, I've just taken out a second shooter or taken out some of the raw footage. Or just like if they say, hey, we've got a $10,000 budget and I want to work it, it's like, hey, it's just 1 day. And like, I'm not lowering the price so much. They're just not getting as much stuff. And so the $7,500 collection that I booked was just me for 8 hours and a 6-minute film, and that's it. And they're like, actually, we want the rehearsal dinner and 2 more minutes on the film now. So it's like, okay, that's going to be another $2,500. So now we're up to $10K. So that's what I've been doing. With every package that I do, I always provide like next day or a couple day later teasers, little Instagram clips. And then I also always provide the planner with 2 to 5 reels, even if it's just like one clip of the bride walking or the flowers. So I always try to do that kind of stuff too. Don't underestimate the power of a BTS reel for a new planner, photographer friend. Yeah, that's one thing that I would recommend doing if you're low on bookings. It's like reach out to your planners instead of being like, is there anybody that like I did, like the way I just walked in with my tail between my legs in July and went to my friends. They were my friends. I didn't randomly like cold call planners, but the best thing is offering value. And so if you can say, hey, I'm not booked any of these weekends in October. Do you have any weddings that you'd want me to come just film some details for you and put together some reels? Or do you have any couples that have photo but don't have video? Can I come out for an hour and give you some drone footage of the outdoor reception setup or the whatever? You're creating content, you're getting in the room, you're being known, like that kind of stuff adds up. And especially if you have time on your hands, that's the best marketing dollars I think you could spend, is just getting in the room. Anybody else have more questions? There's a lot of chat going on. That is a lot for 15K. Yeah, I know.
I have one kind of like a sub question touching on the previous topic that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So providing clips for wedding planners. So I'll give a little bit of context here. This year I've been subcontracting a lot through another company. So I don't think I technically own that footage, but I've been making the connections with these people, like other planners. Is there like a good way to go about like trying to get bookings through other, through like planners, like that, like, or like trying to like getting bookings through planners, but like preemptively offering the BTS stuff for the future?
You have to be very careful when second shooting with what your agreement is with the company, or like lead shooting even for another company. Like I shot in New York or New Jersey a couple weeks ago for another company, and like I posted nothing on mine. I did follow the photographer, but I did not, like the planner, all the stuff was just like, hey, Cliff, this is all the like, here's all the footage, here's all the, like, I'm not going after and DMing them or anything and trying to create any business off of it. It just needs to be very clear what your relationship is with who you're subcontracting for and what you're allowed to do. Using the footage from their wedding to market obviously would be a major no-go, as Brandon would say in the chat. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with communicating to who you're shooting for or with or whatever, seeing what they're okay with. Because a lot of times, like Blake will second shoot for me. We did a wedding in Houston earlier this year. He's from Houston. I don't really care to shoot a lot of weddings in Houston. Like, it's nice, it's fine, it's great, but I'm like, so I said, hey, Blake, feel free to use any of this footage for your reel. Like, go for it, and feel free to follow the planner. And like, this is a great lead for you. Feel free to make connections. I know that he's in like the $5,000 to $10,000 range for his stuff, and so I let the planner know, like, hey, if you want me and Blake at another wedding, I'm in the 15,000 plus. If you just want Blake or something, he's great. He shoots with me all the time. His brand is 5 to 10K. Like, I did that because I care about him and I built a relationship. But if it's just some big company and you're like one of their mini shooters or something, I would just get that clarified, because you don't want to necessarily lose your job doing that. But if you make those connections and you follow them online and it's not weird, or you've done your due diligence with your company saying, hey, I'm going to follow along some of these people, I don't think it's wrong to sooner than later reach out, but it's just a weird bridge to cross if you're not being super careful. Like the photographer I worked with in New Jersey, we've become friends, and she's like, I have to work with you again. And it's like, okay, well, that's great. So she followed me, she found me, and so I've sent her some texts and stuff, and she sent me a photo of me that she took at the wedding and that I used to market this little Zoom call. But yeah, we're friends, and she wants to work with me, and I wasn't trying to do any of that. Cliff, the guy that I was working for, knows, hey, I've made a friend and he's cool with it. So you just have to be careful.
Okay. And then I did have another question that I wrote up here, but so I'm in a bit of an identity crisis with the name of my business. But when it comes to business and branding, what are your thoughts on using your actual name versus like an artsy fartsy brand name? And then I wrote, if example, John Bunn Films versus Wayward North Films, not to specifically call out Jared.
Yeah. I took a long time and tried so many names, and I just felt like I wanted something that would potentially supersede the wedding world. And I wanted it to be more boutique and about me, and I wasn't trying to build a bigger brand. I've seen people, like, I think about the luxury space, I think about the premium space, I think about like the adventurous space, I think about nostalgic things, like you have someone like Le Rev Films that just sounds nice, it works. And then you have Peyton Frank, who is also in that space that her name just sounds nice in the luxury space. It works. It sounds like she could be a designer of handbags or something. I don't know. And then you've got like Storybox Cinema. Like, there's luxury. And then I think about like Jose Villa, just Jose Villa photographer. Like, he's just Jose Villa. He's enough of the brand. I mean, his name is super dope, of course. And if you have a name like John Bunn, you really want people to say it again and again. I'm kidding. But yeah, for me, like, I went back and forth. I was Redeemed Productions for the longest time because I needed a name 15 years ago to film a hockey video and never changed it. And so I just wanted it to be more about they were hiring me, the person, and that's a large part of my brand, is showing off me and what I care about and how nostalgic I am, and it just works. So I don't think there's a right or wrong. I would love to hear from anyone in the chat that uses a name versus, artsy fartsy versus their own name. Jabun Films. But yeah, if you have any feedback on what you've liked, I honestly think that you can make it work with either. It just depends on the ethos of your brand and where you're heading and what you want to be known and felt. Whenever people think of your brand, I'm looking like Love and Lore Films, Ever After Films, Salt and Pine Films, John Bunn Films. Like, it's like Le Rev Films. Like, there's a lot of different thoughts here. I'm going to read what Powell says, though. I think the one long-term benefit I've thought about with our name is that one day we can transition to being creative directors and editors only and not have to physically do the work. Yep, that's a great... yeah, Carlos. I mean, I think that works. He says, my name is Carlos Sierra. I went with Sierra Studios. However, I may make a wedding specific brand named Carlos Sierra Films. For me, with the couple, so I hired Sam Jacobson's team to like dig deep into who I want to serve and why. And a lot of it came back to like, I want people that see my heart and care about me specifically being at their wedding. And I knew if I needed to transition to out of this, or like I could always rebrand. But for me, that's why I leaned into my name. I just wanted people to see like, oh, John is the person that's doing it. But I don't think that, I think your relationships and your branding and that matters to me more than the specific name. But I like the idea of it just being a name and not my name, but I wanted it to be more personal for me. Could be a bad move, just what I did. I'm happy with it. A lot of what I've been doing these days is what I'm happy with and what I'm enjoying. It's hard to be that guy, but that's where I'm at. What other questions? Cherish and Lindsay said, we've had people film weddings for us in our absence. Much harder to do if your brand is your personal name. There's pros and cons to both. Yeah, I agree. Any more questions? I'm here. I want to answer your questions. This is your free mentor hour. Come on. Where are you struggling? What's hurting? Mark says, insurance recommendations for you and the team. Insurance sucks. It's expensive. I have like business insurance to cover me, like policies in case I knock down a light and it knocks down a candle and it sets a table on fire, which I've done before. Just barely. It just barely set something on fire. And then I have personal insurance that I pay an arm and a leg for because I don't have insurance through a company. I think I spend like $2,500 a month for insurance, which sucks. But yes, I don't like, depending on how many weddings you have and stuff, 1,000% get your own, your liability insurance, your insurance on your gear. I also have like disability insurance that I pay for in case like something happens to me, and I can't work, that covers bills for so long. And then I have life insurance in case someone kills me at a wedding. So, there are different, I'm not an insurance person. My recommendation on insurance is find a broker, not like one person that just sells State Farm or just sells somebody that can like look at all the prices and look at your situation and say, let's do this. But I have somebody that does my personal and somebody that does my business that are separate. Kevin says, do you consider the overall budget of the wedding as a factor when submitting your proposal? Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of my referrals now are in bookings. Almost all of them are either people that know me because they were at a wedding that I shot and have been following me for a long time, or referrals from planners or photographers. And so the wedding that I just am sending the quote out that I hope signs today, the planner reached out to me and said, hey, I've got a couple. This is their budget. This is what they're looking for. Is this something you can swing? And so it's like, I don't know the whole budget of the whole wedding. So a lot of times that's what I'm doing with the planners, just kind of saying, hey, what are they trying to spend for video? What's a budget range? And she told me like 16 to 20,000 or something. And I was like, okay, what do they want? Okay, yeah, I'll build some things within that range. Or if she says it's 5,000 to 7,000, I'm like, I probably can't do anything for that. Or I might say, yeah, if I could, this is what I would do. As far as if somebody just reaches out and says, hey, I'm a fan of you. I am trying to gauge just how much money they're trying to spend and then anchor them with like, well, do you know kind of your overall budget for your wedding? I think it's a hard balance with video though, because again, it depends on where you're at. If you're getting great relationships like Ariana, the planner that just sent me this killer wedding, it's different than if somebody just reaches out to you on your website and you have to gather data based on what works for you. But I'm just paying attention to cues. I'm looking them up on social media. I'm trying to understand, like, is this somebody that is friends with this other fraternity person or sorority person? And I know that sorority at OU is like really going to spend a lot on weddings. That whole group also, like I've seen that they've all been in this country or that country or whatever. And I'm not like raising the price based on that. I know my prices are between like the $15,000 and 20,000 range. And so then I start factoring in, do I want that wedding even if they've got 12,000, or do I want that wedding if they, if they have more budget than that? I'm not just saying, oh, my prices all of a sudden are 38,000, or something like that. So for me, I will gauge that. I try not to do too much asking about specifics at the beginning, because for me, it's that whole cold lead, warm lead situation, to where even though, there are lots of weddings now where the bride reaches out and is like, I haven't booked a date yet. I'm booking you first. Like, I literally just had somebody that got engaged in Paris, and they're saying, I'm getting married in May of 2026. Are you available? Tell me a date. And I'm like, yeah, I'm available. Like, what are you talking about? But they were like, I know that it's really expensive and I don't care what it costs. You're our very first vendor. That's a different scenario than like, hey, I'm getting married in this location and just wanting to know your prices. So yeah, there's a lot of work I do just to gauge it. I don't think it's a thing for me where I could just have all my prices on my site. I did recently take my starting price off my site because I want more inquiries and I want to figure out how to get more people to say yes. And so that's kind of where I'm at. But I will communicate usually before we meet, or something around the ranges that we usually charge to people. It's like, hey, we're about to do this call. Just want to say, just make sure you knew our range is kind of in this range or whatever. They can tell by my website, by the work that I do, hopefully, that it's not a $2,000 video. But I try not to waste anyone's time either, and kind of gauge, hey, our films cost more than the average bear kind of thing. But here's why. I can walk through it with you on a call. We average anywhere from 12 to 15,000 starting rate with our couples. Some couples spend up to 30,000. That's kind of where we're at. If you'd like to get on a call, let's do it. Back in the day, that was great. A lot of people would just say no. But now I'm wanting to get them in and talk to them a little more because the market's harder. And so I might say, we're willing to, we usually start here, but if your budget's not quite there, let's talk and let's see where it's at and see if there's anything I can do. That's exactly what I did with the booking that's now at 10K. It's a 1-day shoot. It's in Oklahoma. I'm happy with it. Money in my bank account, Christmas presents, coming to the Bunn house. Let's go. Yeah. I have asked for the whole wedding budget, Carlos. That's actually a decent way, depending the estimated budget for the wedding. As you get into the higher market, there's no budget. And so that's there is a budget, but at the same time, it could be off-putting. So just knowing where you're at in your market. But that can be a good way with them saying, yeah, our overall budget's $75,000. It's like, okay, well, how high of a priority is the video for you? Well, it's the number one. Okay, well, so probably 10 to 20% of your budget is what you're looking at spending. Yeah, okay, well, then that would be 10 to 15,000, correct? Good. Okay, now 10 to 15 seems super cheap compared to the 75, and I will not do as many flowers in the back tables anymore, and I will only have drinks for a little while, or I don't know. So that's kind of how you could anchor and engage with that. Most of my couples these days, I'm not doing that because I know that they have money to spend, and I'm not trying to beat around the bush with them. So Mark says, is a FOMO edit the same as a long doc style wedding day edit? If not, what is the difference? So I have a thing called a FOMO edit. And this, to me, I just did one for my Oregon/Tulsa wedding, and it was 5 hours and 42 minutes long. So long. But basically, a FOMO edit to me is you push play and you can watch everything, and everything looks good. It's not creative. It's just chronologically in order. So if I'm taking footage of the bride getting ready and Blake is taking footage of the groom getting ready, I will show in sequential order as much as possible, a few shots of the bride getting ready and then back to the groom and back to the bride, based on what actually was happening at that time. It's not exact, but it leads through the whole day. And then any live type events, like a first look or a first touch or a letter reading or anything like that, is edited in its entirety between however many angles filmed it. So if it's a first look with dad, it's literally you're getting footage all the way up until that moment, and then there's an edited back and forth between those two angles. The audio sounds really good and clean. Then it moves into whatever happened next, and then all the way through the whole day. And so ceremony is like the same thing that they would get if they just bought this. Like if I'm just exporting out an edited ceremony, once it gets to the ceremony and keeps going through the whole day, the audio that is recorded in camera is in there, so you can hear everybody interacting and talking, and it just. I want to push play and literally relive this whole day. That's how I do it. A long doc style wedding day edit would probably be the same. I don't know. I just call that thing the FOMO edit. Some people will like put together just a longer doc style edit of like Nick will do like a getting ready edit, just like all the getting ready footage, or like a reception edit, which is just a whole bunch of details and then dancing, and so it's just different for different people. If somebody, like I have on my menu of pricing though, like $1,000 for a ceremony edit, $1,000 for the toasts and first looks edit, for example, or $3,500 for a full FOMO edit. And I don't call it a FOMO edit in my pricing. It's a full doc edit is what I call it. It shows them the value of like just a ceremony and toast is $1,000 a piece or whatever, and then I might as well do this full doc edit. And I send all of those to an editor anyway. It's more expensive for me to have the full doc edit, but I make more than it costs me. What are options or platforms you consider to deliver your films to your couple? I don't know if you include raw videos, photos. Some of them are really huge. Yeah, I wanted to make sure you know how you do deliver your raw films. Good questions. I had been using, and I go back and forth, VidFlow and MediaZilla are the ones that I usually use. And then I also have like custom like drives that I will drop all the footage on. I have custom boxes and deliver based on what they, it's cheaper for me to put it on a hard drive and mail it sometimes if it's going to be like all the footage, like the raw footage, I will send through the mail with a drive that says John Bunn Films, and there's a box that has paper in it that has my logo all on it, and I put a note in there and I kiss it with some lipstick. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. But like I really love just how sexy VidFlow is and how easy it is, but I really love MediaZilla because I love how much longer the couple gets access to the footage, and like the original downloads are always on there. Like it just depends on what you want. Both of those are great services. I lean towards MediaZilla because of those things though. So I've switched to MediaZilla this year. I have nothing bad to say about VidFlow, but VidFlow I think might be switching to more of the same kind of pricing model too. I haven't done a project in VidFlow in a little while, but I am thinking through though presentation. I'm not going to be just sending a YouTube link. I'm not going to be just sending, when I send them their actual films, like I embed the film into a custom page on my website. I want all their friends and family coming to my website to watch it. I have a pixel installed on Facebook and Google, so I can run retargeting ads if I want to from people that have been to my website. It helps with SEO, all that kind of stuff. So I embed everything into my website on a private link through either MediaZilla or VidFlow. All my new films have been through MediaZilla this year. Let's see what you said. My question is, where can you learn gimbals or rig setups? I use a Ronin Pro 3 and looking to master it, as well as building a rig setup. Any schools or courses? Skillshare. That is a good question. What do you guys do? What you say? Got the practice, need the practical troubleshooting. I don't have anything specifically on how to use specific gimbals. Can you ask that again with more detail on what you're trying to accomplish? For me, it's YouTube University, getting it set up, and then also just practicing with it. That's what I do. And then also asking other filmmakers in the area that are like for in-person help if I can't get it set up. I use a Ronin S still. What? Let's go. It's old. It works. But like when I shot with Kayla the other day, it was like, my gimbal's not working. I was like, I don't know. I'm not. But yeah, I mean, you guys don't even know how bad gimbals used to be. I feel like I can picture in my mind Lindsey Conklin with like a Steadicam Merlin in 2009 and like khaki type cargo pants and a mustache at a wedding. That's how I picture him. Again, understanding like my main things with gimbals are, especially for wedding films, a lot of us are crazy psychos with our gimbals. We try to do too much and it just needs to be pretty subtle. And depending on the kinds of movements, I've gotten back into the editing base so many times and I'm just like, why was I running around so fast? I just needed a little bit of movement. What was I thinking? And then just like my lens choice, different things, what I'm wanting to accomplish and thinking of it. Like I shoot with my gimbal with my editor in mind. And that is literally another person. But if you're your own editor, I rented a Merlin for a wedding and it's like got a U-shaped thing. And I was so mad. I spent like $100 renting it. And then we filmed, you guys know Jeff Dunham, the comedian ventriloquist. I filmed his wedding in 2012. And that's like my one big celebrity wedding. So here you go. But it was in Santa Ynez, California, up in Lindsey Conklin land. But I hired a third shooter. We shot on the Sony like cinema line in 2012. We rented all new cameras, the whole Sony Cinema Prime kit. And then I also brought my friend Justin with the full Steadicam rig like they used to run around in the NFL with. I rented that thing for like $2,000 and we didn't balance it right and it was just going the whole day. So that's what gimbals used to be like. My feedback is I love gimbals. I think that depending on if you want to go into luxury, that's a great, like to have everything just slowly on a gimbal, parallaxing. Don't be afraid to put a 50 on it. Don't be afraid to like throw an 85 on it and get some tighter details with parallax. I like to keep a 24-70 on mine, or just a 16-35, or just like a 24. But I think gimbals are hard to learn, but once you've decided to go for it and just practice, that's my main feedback. Just use your gear a lot, ask questions, watch YouTube videos. Yeah. Another thing on the gimbal is I would like sign up for styled shoots and I would set up little styled shoots and just practice like in real situations. Go to wedding venues and see if you can do gimbal tours for them and learn your gimbal, and don't be like practicing it on a wedding day. Kevin says, what's your turnaround time for films? What's your turnaround time for your films? Also, do you send them the doc films before the highlight films? I do not send the doc films before. I lead with the teaser, even though I usually get them all done for my editor at once. I'll be like, your teaser's almost ready, and then I'll send the teaser, and then I'll wait like 3 more days or a week, and then send them their feature film. Once they've got that all approved and they're great, I say, hey, this is awesome. I'll be uploading the rest of your stuff to the same link that I've sent these other ones, and I'll let you know when it's uploaded. My turnaround time, I have 0 backlog right now. I just am delivering my Oregon and Tulsa double feature kind of wedding, where they did an Indian wedding in Oregon and a Western wedding in Tulsa. That was my $32,000 plus travel booking this year, but it was just 2 $16,000 weddings basically. And they did their first June 14th and their Oklahoma one on June 29th. So like 3 months ago. I let people know in my contract that it's a 6-month window unless otherwise notified. And part of that is I don't work well under a deadline. I'm mature enough to get it done, but I also don't want to just put out something that is crappy just because there's a deadline. The week after the wedding, I'll send a 1-week anniversary auto email that I have to fill certain things in, but it reminds me, send them, it's like, hey, happy anniversary, 1-week anniversary. Hope you're chilling on the beach, sipping a pina colada or whatever. Just as a reminder, this is what's in your collection. This is where I'm at on edits right now. As it sits, I would be expecting probably 2 to 3 months, but I'll be in touch as we get a little bit closer. Please take a look at what's in the collection, and if you want to add anything, I could talk to you through that. That's kind of my first round of communication. And if I'm going to get behind, or if I know that I'm not going to meet a deadline, I immediately will send them either a text an audio message. Like I want them to hear my voice and see my face, or like a video message like, hey guys, just so you know, I'm over here in my dungeon editing still and I'm way behind and I just wanted you to know it and you're awesome. And I can't wait to edit your wedding films, but it's probably going to be about 4 months. So I'll be in touch. It might be a little bit longer. Do not hold me to that date, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. I love you. Tell so-and-so hi for me, whatever, you know. I'll usually give them some kisses. I don't give anybody kisses. I don't know why I'm saying that today. It's so weird. Sorry. It's so weird. When did you know that this is the time to jump to the premium market? And do you plan it before starting? No, I did not. I have had lots of conversations, luckily, through How to Film Weddings with people in all types of markets, and I've been able to interview them and ask them questions. And so, like, I knew that once I got to the market that I was in, this is kind of where I wanted to park it for a while. I really heavily considered, like, I need to just be charging more because I'm doing this and I need to do these kinds of weddings. But sometimes you get in a market and you love it and you start raising your prices a little bit more and you're like, I don't like these weddings anymore. I want to, you know, it's like you got to pay attention to what you like and feel called to do and feel like you want to do and things like that. For me, though, I started like most people and just said, I do weddings. If you have a pulse, I will film your wedding because it's money and I like money. And then I got really backlogged and then was just like, wait a sec, I don't like this. And also, I don't like how I felt at this wedding. I don't like how I felt at that wedding. That couple had a lot of money, but they treated me like crap. What can I do about that? And just kind of had to slowly turn my boat towards the direction I wanted it to go. And to me, like, I'm so stoked about this wedding that I'm doing that's $10K for this couple. Emma, the bride, and I have talked several times. I'm so excited. I'd rather it be that than $7,000 or $8,000 more for a wedding. And with what I'm doing with How to Film Weddings, that's why I decided not to be pushing. I don't think it's fair to the luxury premium, high premium market for me to be trying to like get in there and take and do whenever my main passion is teaching and educating and wanting 3 to 5, 7, 8 weddings maybe a year. So I just, for me, for the current season I'm in, that's how I've decided to be where I'm at. And then this year moving into next year with the bookings that I had, I've lowered prices a little bit for the first time in 10 years. Would rather have 5 to 8 weddings. It's enjoyable. I like it. And so I don't know what market that puts me in. I don't care. I don't love labels in that stance. But if somebody that wants to spend $40,000 wants me, I will figure out a way for them to give me $40,000. What other questions? Anybody else?
What's going on, man? So my big question for you is how much would you attribute your branding to your success?
Like the new brand, as soon as I did it, like I was charging in the 8 to 12,000 range before I updated in 2021. And Nick was just like, dude, you got to update your branding. I was like, I'm booking $10,000 weddings. I like my couples. It doesn't matter. So I was successful before I really leaned into it, but I'm also, I would lean towards saying that I'm pretty good at sales and pretty good at like just getting people to fall in love with what I can do for them. And they're happy because of me, not the brand. But I think it cost me a ton of money over time that I didn't realize until I updated my branding. And then people were like, yeah, 12.5 is easy. I'll do that. Or 15K is easy. I'm like, what? This was so much easier to, like, I was trying to save money and not just do it. And instead, like, I was telling people that it was cheaper than it was. And then I would have to work to upsell them and do all these different things. So I don't know if my success is to the brand, but like if I were starting over, I would be leaning into like the first few years, it's just like figuring out who you are. Like, I don't know I don't know what kind of wedding films I want to do. I know who I am as a person, but you kind of have a direction and then you fine tune it or whatever. But if I was starting over, probably after a couple of years of shooting and figuring out the lane that I wanted to head in, I would have rebranded at that point to aim specifically to that kind of clientele. And it probably would have saved me 5 years of getting to where I am. So I would say I'm less successful because I didn't pay enough attention to my brand until sooner. Yeah, I think that would be my answer. Do you have any follow-ups to that?
Yeah, I guess on that note, what would you say it was about your sales ability that brought you the success that you had before you wound up having a really solid foundational branding approach?
Good question. So for me, sales has always come very easily and naturally. Like, I can't help myself. If I love something, it's easy for me to tell people why it's great. And I don't like to be sold to by bad salesmen, people that are just want to make money off of me instead of serve me. And so that was just my approach from the beginning. Even like I had just been sold to incorrectly. I went to school for advertising and marketing and kind of just dug into different people. I found Gary Vaynerchuk really early and was just like, oh, this makes sense. This is good. Or, and jab, 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 right hook kind of idea, which is, serve, 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 then ask for something. And so that's just the approach I took into it. Sales, like when people are in the room and I'm very, like back in the day, all sales calls were in person. Like this is the only place that you would go. You would go to a coffee shop or you'd have them at your office or whatever. And so I just messed up a lot and didn't know what I was doing and learned with the thousands of consultations that I've done. And so I did read lots of sales books, took lots of sales like YouTube video trainings and just tried to learn. And it's served me very well. It's helped thousands of wedding filmmakers at this point, which is great. And where I lean into is serving and not trying to sell something that you're not passionate about, not trying to sell something that you don't believe in, and especially not trying to just sell something because you know somebody has money. I am, to a fault, thinking way too far ahead all the time, where I'm not even in the moment most times. I'm in 2026 right now in my mind. That's no joke. I have to come back to reality. And so I look at someone and look at the potential of the branch that is now going to be added to my business and all of the different branches that are going to come off of that branch and all the fruit it's going to produce. And so I learned early that like play the longer game, take care of people, don't just try to make your money today. Because I did have a longer vision. Like I wanted to do this for more than 5 years. So, well, thank you guys for being here. Seriously, it's fun to just get to see some of your faces. David, good to see you. Cherish. Oh, that's Lindsay. I thought it was Cherish this whole time. Just kidding. Good to see everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. If you need anything, let me know. If you want to do this again, I'll do it again. So hopefully it was worth it. So, all right, friends, have a good day. We'll talk soon. Well, thanks again for tuning in to this live Zoom call. I think it was a lot of fun. I enjoy kind of being able to just answer questions. And if you have a question for us, best place to send it is over at How to Film Weddings on Instagram. Send us a DM with a question. And if you like this, send me a DM and just say you want me to do this again. I would love to answer more of your questions. And just, I think it's really cool to just take time to get to see your face, get to know new people. And I think this community is rad. And I just really enjoy it. So speaking of community, before we hop off today, if you're interested in, one of the questions was asked about our mastermind group. If you're interested in the mastermind community, we do a lot of stuff like this. Deep, just kind of chats, asking questions, giving each other feedback, just interacting. There's just something about the community and learning from others and getting feedback. Our mastermind community will open in January. We take a limited number of people, but if you're looking for a community, if you're looking for mentorship, if you're looking for what I talked about regarding mastermind, get on our wait list to see if it's something that you might want to do in 2025. It just might be the year for you. That's all I have for today. I hope you've been enjoying these episodes, and until next time, we'll see you.